his head and apologizes to him. Women turns to Giant Manhu, while pointing out that the soldier they are talking about is actually an F-ranker, while reminding him if he even knows that. Huen mentions he will take command now since he is a C-ranker. Manu however questions how they even got inside this place since there is a restriction at level 15. He shares that he already knew Hunuk Unk's rank, because he heard it earlier, yet he still follows Hywuk Unk's orders while believing he truly deserves to lead. Manu also mentions he is a C-ranker as well while wondering why he needs to take orders from Himen. He also brings up that they claim to be the rescue squad, but with this unlucky event happening, he questions how they plan on rescuing anyone while asking if they even have a clear plan or an exit strategy. Women responds that, for now, they will set up a barricade at the entrance while leaving a narrow passageway and try to hold out as long as possible. While they discuss, Xianha suddenly rushes in while letting him know that they are in big trouble. Huen checks on her asking if the vice platoon leader is hurt, but she freezes upon seeing the second platoon leader while questioning why he came here. He tells her he is here to rescue them, but she insists it is not the priority right now while revealing that the civilians have found out it is a double gate. Meanwhile, the civilians begin shouting while demanding the person in charge to come out and accusing them of lying when they claimed they would survive if they just waited. They ask why the truth about the double gate was hidden from them. She explains it was to prevent chaos, but the people push back while questioning how they are supposed to trust her, while saying that the guard was right after all and claiming they are using civilians as human shields to buy time. The female soldier snaps while asking where they heard such nonsense. One of the men responds that it was the guard with a scar on his nose who told them the so-called truth. On the other side, Juicy Op lies wounded on the ground while grumbling that he had fully prepared for this quest while feeling it's unfair since the chance was so hard to get. Meanwhile, Yunwook, clearly busy, brushes off his complaints while urging him to just hurry up and die. Juicy Op curses about how these villains always seem to use the same tricks. Suddenly, a swirl appears and he gets notified that his mana is recovering fast along with his health. Another notification pops up while informing him that his quest has arrived. Yanwook, thrilled to discover it, is a hidden quest called Lightbearer, which promises to guide him to become the dawn of the world and the light that will lead it. Yet, as the notification asks if he wants to accept this quest, Hunuk simply rejects it without hesitation. Hunuk gets asked once more if he wants to take or turn down the quest. He figures that the Guardian quest sounds noble while claiming it protects humanity. Yet in the end, it's just another group with its own motives. While the reward is certain, his actions will get limited again and again. Above all, a quest stays a quest, but humans aren't that straightforward. If this mission gets twisted, a Guardian could flip into a villain any time, just like Gordon Prey, humanity's worst traitor. After all, he was once a Guardian too. So Hanwook mutters under his breath that he refuses this quest again. Right after, while standing still, a notice pops up that he has won the first prize in a lucky event, a Armory Key number 2. It's the same item the villain Yang Jukup was hunting down, even if it meant butchering innocent people. Since it's a main quest reward, there's no doubt it's something the villains desperately need. Because of that, he plans to keep it while swearing to ruin those villain punks in this lifetime. Meanwhile, a lady guard complains that something feels off. John Man, who mentions that he's the only guard with a scar on his face. She questions him again while asking if he's sure it wasn't him. The man admits he isn't certain but still points out they hid info about the double gate. No one can guarantee they won't be used as human shields. Hunwook senses that Yanju Siop is causing trouble to the bitter end. Then Minhui steps up while trying to calm the people down and asking them to trust her as the captain of the AMT rescue team and hear them out. At that moment, Hunwook also realizes that Lieutenant Major Kim Kanguk didn't give up on Seoul Station till the last second, sending in Lieutenant Minhui exactly where she was needed. But the crowd questions her while doubting why they should trust a rescue team with only 6 people and no clear plan. Hunwook steps forward while questioning what's going on and reminding them that if the second wave begins, they all face death. The man argues they don't trust them, which is why they're acting this way. Hunwook counters while asking if they have any other solution since they don't trust them. He points out that the rail guards have risked their lives, and that should count for something while questioning if anyone else is willing to risk everything for them. Yet, Minhui snaps at Hunwook while scolding him for speaking to citizens like that and questioning where he was hiding until now. Hunwook casually mentions that he just blocked the double gate. Minhai is stunned, thinking this man is lying with a straight face while claiming he blocked the double gate by himself. Hunwook warns that the second wave is about to start and requests all citizens to hide as well as they can. Then he calls the guards and platoon leader to follow him, while telling everyone to use chairs and desks to block the entrances and find hiding spots. Meanwhile, Minhui thinks to herself about the commanding presence he's showing while leaving her with no room to intervene, wondering if this is really the Hunuk she knows. Soon, Juno arrives with Hyun's blade and the vice platoon leader spellbook, and Hyun nods and thanks. He then gathers everyone while saying there's something important to share. He mentions that the first wave spider monster wasn't in the field. Guide, but with his battle skin and the guard force, they managed to stop it, although it felt weak for an unlucky event monster. Manu agrees while nodding it felt odd despite being strong. Hunwook explains it might be because it was only the first wave, and since an unlucky event is still an event, it must come in stages. He warns that in the second wave, monsters using the spider's venom might appear. Min Hui, while watching all this, wonders why even the guards and the vice platoon leader are listening so seriously to this so-called loser. Hunwook points out that keeping this in mind, everyone needs to put on gas masks in advance. Although Seoul Station is large, if the toxic gas keeps spreading, citizens might end up getting exposed to it. Therefore, they must find a way to lure the monsters out to the outside platform no matter what. He goes on to break down the plan. When the second wave kicks off, they need to catch the monsters' focus and guide them outside. Hunwook takes it upon himself to handle that part. Meanwhile, the rescue team and the guards will wait outside in groups, ready to strike the monsters that get drawn out while staying behind cover where they can duck and hide if needed. Just like during the first wave, their goal is to lock down the monsters' movements and wait for the right moment. They need to remember to keep their distance no matter what happens. Once they find a strong position to fight from, Hunwook plans to tear off the spider's armor while opening the chance for them to finish the job. Hunwook points out that everyone should aim all their attacks on that weak spot to bring it down. He notes this step as the most important part. For a better chance at pulling off this operation, the platoon leader and vice platoon leader need to guide them from a higher position. If the platoon leader keeps supporting him by using the warp ability, Hyun can pour all his mana and stamina into tearing off the spider's armor. Meanwhile, if the vice platoon leader keeps restoring the platoon leader's mana, they could continue using warp until the battle ends. Above everything else, the only person able to sense and handle the dangerous situations for each unit is the vice platoon leader who knows raid tactics inside out, isn't it? At that moment, Minhu acknowledges that with this strategy, they should get through without taking heavy damage. Hunwook nods while trusting the plan and relies on Minhui while calling her platoon leader, or rather rescue team captain. Now, he realizes that with Minhua's warp skill, as a C-ranker truly at level 15, they can clear this operation without much trouble. Soon the second wave is about to begin, and he reminds everyone to prepare themselves. However, he suddenly gets a notification that an unlucky event is now active in the area. He mutters that their plan is already set, so they have to move forward. Right after, another notice informs him that they must either survive for 6 hours or defeat the boss monster to escape. A wave of shock hits him as he learns about the boss's appearance, and disbelief runs through him while thinking this shouldn't be happening now. Then another notification flashes while stating that the boss monster has arrived and they must defeat it. In that instant, the future shifts and Hunwook quickly orders everyone to run while knowing everything has now changed. As Hunwook engages the monsters in a fierce battle, a sudden shift takes place. The boss monster makes its appearance. A wave of shock sweeps over him as he recognizes the creature. At the same moment, Minhai tries to understand the chaos around him. He murmurs to himself while attempting to grasp control of the situation. Without wasting time, he orders the others to stay steady and stick to the raid plan while instructing them to lure the beast away from the civilians. Meanwhile, the boss monster charges at Hunwook. He recalls from memory that this enemy wasn't supposed to arrive until the second wave. A chill of realization strikes him. His actions may have altered the timeline. As they begin clashing, the monster strike nearly hits him, but he narrowly avoids it. This near miss fires him up. He gathers his will while knowing that failure would mean total destruction. He activates his smash skill, but it proves useless against the boss. Shocked, he attempts a metal skill combo, yet the creature deflects it effortlessly. Frustration builds up inside him. The monster had crushed a pillar in one blow, clearly outmatching normal strengthening body transformation. Suddenly, something catches his attention. The boss appears to be targeting the support pillars. That sparks an idea. Despite the risk, he steadies himself, convinced it's the only option left. From afar, Minhai watches in disbelief. He questions what Hunwook is thinking and calls out to him while reminding him of their strategy. But Hunwook, bloodied yet determined, assures him through his actions that he has a plan. Minhai's mind drifts back to a past moment. Hunwook had once addressed him formally as Tao, Tactical Action Officer Minhai. He had teased Hunwook for using his title like that while suspecting he was making an excuse, but Hunwook had genuinely thanked him for saving his life with his warp skill. Minhai had humbly responded while crediting his experience and his habit of memorizing every tactical manual available. He had explained how he refined those strategies over time while preparing to use his warp with precision in real situations. Snapping back to the present, Minhai watches Hunwook and wonders aloud what he's planning. But as he studies the movements more closely, realization strikes that Hunwook isn't just dodging. He's guiding every attack from the boss monster toward the structural pillars. However, Minhai knows that simply bringing down the pillars isn't enough. Then it hits him. Panic rises in his chest as he turns to Sean Ha while standing beside him. He pleads for her to channel all her mana into him. When she asks why, he urgently responds that he's going to open the largest warp zone he's ever attempted. While that happens, Hanwuk successfully redirects each monstrous blow toward the final pillar. Though his mana depletes rapidly, he pushes on while praying that his body won't give out. But as he nears the end, the boss strikes back hard while slamming him into the wall. Pain floods through him, yet he forces himself to rise again while activating his body transformation. Despite that, he is once again overpowered. His body broken, he lies battered against the ruins, but he knows it's complete. Structure is on the brink of collapse. He tells himself the only thing left is to keep the boss distracted long enough. He needs bait. Minhai on the edge yells at Hanwuk to retreat. He warns that activating the warp will drag Hunuk in too, but Hunuk insists that it's now or never. Driven by Hanwuk's determination, Minhai unleashes the warp just in time. The resulting explosion destroys the boss monster and causes massive devastation across the battlefield. Catching his breath, Hunuk praises Minhai while calling him a true partner, but he's on the verge of collapse. As Minhai kneels beside his bruised body, he calls him a fool. Yet it's clear there's nothing but respect in his voice. Hanwuk recalls a conversation from his former life. He mentions that numerous comrades were lost during this operation, while making him question if he's truly worthy of leading. The girl beside him responds with frustration while calling him irritating and asking if he plans to keep wallowing in such weak thoughts. She questions who even gets to decide what someone deserves and whether he still doesn't believe in himself. Back in the current timeline, he finds himself in the middle of a fierce battle against a monster. Just then, a system alert notifies him that his mana is down to only 3%. He apologizes to everyone around him, but suddenly his mind pulls back a memory. One where that same girl told him that whenever he feels unsure, he should look into the eyes of those who trust and follow him, taking her words to heart. He raises his gaze. Right at that moment, Minhai and Siana arrive while rushing in to protect and pull him from danger. Moments later, an urgent notification pops up while announcing the arrival of the boss monster and marking it as a target that must be eliminated. Meanwhile, back at the base, the battalion commander receives word that every media outlet is pushing for a statement regarding the sudden appearance of the boss monster and the countermeasures being taken. At the same time, a man approaches the squad. Attack department head. He relays that both the director and vice president have instructed him to deliver a message that if things continue in this manner, her position as the head of the attack squads might not remain secure for long. Complains that these so-called brothers are ambushing her like stray dogs while calling it nonsense as they tear her apart like they've been waiting for this moment. Meanwhile, the battalion commander keeps his eyes on her. She snaps at him to stop starring, while reminding him she can just call him anytime if needed, and then she dials her phone. On the other end, Siana checks in while asking if he's about to die while admitting she thought he would really kick the bucket this time. Hanwuk, caught in his thoughts, realizes that the future has shifted while leaving him unsure if the knowledge he holds now has any real value or if it's become completely useless. He wonders what step he should take next. Then Minhai scolds Hanwuk while calling him arrogant and questioning who he thinks he is for acting alone. She reminds him that without her, everyone here would have been wiped out and he knows it. She explains that tactics depend on promises, on trusting that teammates will carry out the planned actions exactly when needed, and that this trust is the core of all tactics. She tells him that acting alone for the sake of everyone was never a good move, not even close, and questions if he truly trusts his teammates at all. This moment pulls Hanwuk back to a memory from his past, where he is reminded to believe in those trusting gazes around him. He starts reflecting deeply on trust, then tells the platoon commander that this isn't the moment for arguments. At this point, Hanwuk mentions that thanks to them, he thinks he now knows what he must do. The boss monster is about to jump out soon, but he has just discovered a way to handle it. Minnie, however, senses that he's trying to charge in alone once again, and she thinks they need to stick to tactics now. She considers that if she has steel skin, they can manage better. Meanwhile, Hunuk mentions that they will use electricity, and everyone must cooperate fully for this tactic to work. He gathers everyone's attention and states that from this point on, the heart of the boss monster raid will be Junmo. Junmo freezes in shock upon hearing this. Yanwuk continues while sharing that they have confirmation about the boss monster's appearance and raises concerns about what will happen to the citizens at Seoul Station. He mentions that the military and authorities need to clarify the situation with additional details. The battalion commander responds that they will conduct a briefing immediately, announcing that the secondary rescue team for this unlucky event has already been sent out. People react with shock upon hearing about the deployment of the secondary rescue team, while questioning the decision to send another low-level team when the boss monster has shown up while wondering if deploying personnel at level 15 or lower is truly their plan to defeat the boss monster. Hanwuk now stands side by side with Sean Ha while facing off against the monster as they push to bring it down. Meanwhile, the head of the guard team instructs the guards to release the water ball. The guards begin pouring water while the amplification rune activates while spreading energy across the field. Seeing the timing is right, Hyunuk instructs Junmo to launch a lightning attack, and Junmo quickly follows through while unleashing the strike. Against the monster, Hunwook then yells out for everyone to hold on until the large frost rune is ready to fire. Meanwhile, people around start raising their voices toward the battalion commander while questioning if sending in low-level personnel is truly their plan to defeat the boss monster, and asking if they aren't concerned about needless casualties piling up. In response, the battalion commander explains that this time the secondary rescue team includes an S-rank player without any level restrictions. This player is Han Tan, known as the Fist King. As Han Tieson arrives on the scene, he approaches Hyun Wook while acknowledging the effort he's put in and tells him to step back now while saying that this big brother will take over from here. He adds that the rest of them should clear out of the way. At that moment, Hyun Wook realizes that finally, after taking his time, Hyun has shown up. Han Tyson then turns to Hyunuk while mentioning that just so he knows he doesn't like sharing the same table and warns that if he catches Hyunuk drooling over his fight, he won't hesitate to deal with him. Tan steps in front of the boss monster and mentions that if it can battle, then he can too. Everyone around is stunned as he swings at the creature. Yet, he soon notices there isn't even a single mark on its body, and he remarks that it's stronger than he expected while making him feel unnecessarily competitive. After that, he moves closer to the monster again while commenting that it's just making things worse for itself. The monster also starts attacking him while the soldiers remain in the area while keeping watch. Meanwhile, Hunwook shows up along with Syenha. She remarks that since he kept insisting, she's filling him with some mana and checks if he's all right now while reminding him that his treatment matters more. Hunwook responds that he's okay while telling her not to stress over him, and adding that he won't be using his body anyway. Just then, one of the nearby soldiers questions if he's scared or if he's about to use it now. Tan once again charges at the boss monster and lands another heavy strike. Hunwook steps in too while using his metal smash skill. As he moves forward, Tan glances at him and questions who he is while wondering if he has a death wish and reminding him not to drool on his table. Hunwook responds while pointing out that even for an S-ranker, he's acting a bit shady with his deals. Tyson asks what he just called him, and Hunwook clarifies that he's the one who interrupted their raid. Tan argues while questioning if they think they could have defeated it without him, while wondering who this arrogant lunatic is and how he dares to play tricks. But Hunwook snaps back while mentioning that they are the ones who struggle until the fatal crisis passes, and Tan just swoops in last minute while pretending to be the hero. Hunwook gets really angry at him. Soon Tan goes after the boss monster to finish it off, but Hunwook also tries to take it down at the same time. Then they receive a notification that the boss monster has been defeated, and the area is now free of all restrictions. Afterwards, people are informed that the boss monster was defeated in less than 5 minutes after Hantan entered. The event dome quietly disappears as the quest completes while revealing the dreadful state of Seoul Station, where it's clear they can't promise the citizens survival. Later, the survivors start coming out. At that moment, a girl sees her mother and runs towards her while checking if she's okay or hurt anywhere. Her mother hugs her tightly and tells her she's okay while apologizing for making her worry while the girl cries in her embrace. Then all of a sudden, a breaking news alert shows up while announcing that something unbelievable has happened. A miracle. Somehow, everyone inside Seoul Station has made it out alive. Right after that, Tan receives a notification that he's the one who brought down the boss monster, the venomous ironclad spider, while meaning he managed to survive the unlucky event. Soon after, he also gets a message congratulating him while letting him know that he'll be receiving a lucky reward for his help in the boss monster's defeat. But unexpectedly, they all become aware that an unknown energy is starting to flow into the cloud blade. At the same time, Hunwook also gets informed that he's earned a lucky reward for bringing down the boss monster. His prize turns out to be Monin and Emlear's secret armor. As Hunwook processes everything, he thinks to himself that this is how he protected Seoul Station and still ended up gaining what he wanted. Right after, Tassin confronts him while demanding an explanation and wanting to know what's going on with his reward. In response, Hyunuk reminds him that they are the ones who blocked the second wave and finished off the boss. He points out that Tyson should actually be grateful for getting second rank even though he barged in at the last moment. And no matter how much he argues, it won't change the facts. But Tan doesn't back down and counters sharply while questioning if he needs to teach him how the system works again. He reminds that slaying the boss monster alone counts for 7% of the contribution towards the event reward. That means no matter what kind of efforts they pulled off before, his input is still way higher. Then he brings up the comment about trade ethics while explaining that he was in the middle of 6 months of closed training when he had to rush into this mess. So, to even things out, he expects at least a hero-grade item. Finally, he demands to know how they're planning to make up for it. Hyun Wook figures he's just messing around while thinking it's funny to bicker about time and payment right in front of him, who's had to head back into the army doing all this pointless and tiring work. Then Tan questions if he even realizes whose time he's been wasting while reminding him that he is Hyacinth. He warns him to stay in line while letting him know that all his talk about solo training or whatever he contributed doesn't change anything because honestly if Tan ever had to be paid back fairly for all the hours he spent fighting, no prize would ever be enough. Frustration builds in Tan as he steps toward him. At that moment, Kim Kang-suk and Yuana arrive, both stopping in shock when they see them. Kang-suk then remarks that the gate is closed and wonders what's going on here. Hunwook realizes they've shown up at the perfect timing. He nods toward Tan while acknowledging him with a compliment and telling him it's been an honor meeting him too. Ta is taken aback. Hunwook then mentions he's heading off now. Kangok checks in while asking if he's fine and Hunwook responds that he's all right, but suddenly Tassin yells for him to get back here immediately. Yuana steps in telling Tassin to cut it out. She admits she has no idea what's happening here, but she warns him that the entire country is watching right now. If he causes trouble here, not even the Blue Flower Guild could fully cover it up. Meanwhile, the soldiers clear the path while announcing the arrival of the Brigadier General as a teleport gate opens. Choi Young-cho appears while commenting on how rare it is to see Tan still around, nodding even the Blue Flower Guild Master's daughter is present, and asks if there's any issue here. Yuana laughs it off while brushing aside the idea of any problem since the gate has closed now. Young-cho remarks that if it's the Blue Flower Guild, there surely can't be any trouble, which makes her find him to be a cunning old man. She then turns to Tan and brings up the state of Seoul Station, while pointing out that the condition was for him to clear the gate without causing a second wave of damage. According to her, a gate of this level should have been cleared without any destruction. Tan shrugs it off while replying that he neither wrecked Seoul Station nor ranked first in the raid. She pauses confused while asking what he means by not ranking first. He insists that he fulfilled all her conditions, so she needs to keep her end of the deal. This leaves her puzzled while thinking how it's possible that an S-ranker didn't come first in a simple level 15 unlucky event. She wonders who on earth managed to take the top spot. Meanwhile, Hunwook is talking with Young Cho, who questions how it even adds up. His military files state he can control up to 300 G, but the report he just received suggests Hunwook can handle way beyond that. At that moment, Yuhana suddenly figures it out that Hunwook is the one who actually secured the first rank. Then Young Chil turns to him, pointing out that unless the data is incorrect, he's still listed as an F-ranker. He finds the situation rather fascinating and mentions that he'd like to take a stroll and get a full update directly from him. Meanwhile, Ha starts feeling a pounding headache as things keep unfolding in completely unexpected ways right before her eyes. As Hunwook begins walking alongside the Brigadier General, he tells himself to stay extra alert. After all, young Kahl isn't someone who can be taken lightly. His abilities have earned him the nickname of a tactical nuclear weapon, but beyond just power, the man is incredibly complex. He's the very individual the necromancer feared most, and someone who had already survived multiple attempts on his life. Soon, Young Cho calls Hunwook and requests a full account of the earlier events. Hunwook immediately realizes what's going on. As he suspected, the Brigadier General is trying to confirm the strange difference between his current performance and what's listed in his official records. He responds by explaining that just recently, after taking down his second elite monster, his abilities had spiked out of nowhere. He received an achievement message titled Dun's Rebellion. His mana control shot up from just 300 G to nearly 17 kg, and he also picked up a few new skills along the way. Young Cho nods and brings up how rare achievement systems are just as rare as quests. This confirms to Hunwook he already fears. The world must not yet know that Frankers can actually grow stronger. That secret needs to be kept safe for now. Then Young Cho agrees that if it's tied to an achievement, it's at least within the realm of possibility. Still, Hunwook gets a strange, uneasy feeling deep down. After a pause, Young Cho adds that calling him an F-ranker now doesn't really fit anymore. In terms of real combat power, he's likely at least C rank or maybe even higher. That completely stuns Hunwook. A thought flashes through his mind that does he want to scout him too. Then, casually but clearly impressed, Young Cho compliments Hunwook's performance while saying he definitely deserves a reward for his efforts. He offers to grant him something, perhaps a magic item or a high-grade armor. He assures him that whatever it is, he'll try to provide it. Hunwook, after a moment of hesitation, admits there is one weapon he's been eyeing, but he doubts even a Brigadier General could just hand it over that easily. That catches Young Cho off guard. Surprised, he asks what item he's talking about. Then Hunwook calmly reveals it. It's one of Young Cho's own most valued possessions, the hero rank Fail Not. The Brigadier General lets out a hearty laugh while remarking that Hunwook really has nerves of steel and mentions they should talk again once he earns another badge here. He notes that Hunwook gets a special promotion for being such a lively person. Hunwook, while seeing how quickly he shifts the topic, thinks to himself that it's just like him, but at least it's a relief since it buys him some more time to stay hidden. A few days later, at the 3rd AMT Brigade's 1st Battalion, Hunwook spends time there while working through the secret armor he recently obtained. He reflects that hero rank gear truly takes effort to absorb fully. During this, Junmo arrives and questions him about training, while Cho Minj also chimes in while mentioning that they'd prefer to do anything other than another round of PT. Hunwook finds them bothersome and points out that he's supposed to be a patient right now. However, they insist that he can simply lead from the front while they stick right behind him. In that moment, Hunwook thinks about how regardless of what happened during these recent events, what truly matters is the trust they build together. Soon after, Anmint approaches, salutes and reports that after being cleared to leave the military general hospital, he's back and ready to rejoin the support squad. Hunwook thinks about how future reward items will always be important, but he's beginning to realize there are other things around him that matter even more. He thanks Mint for coming back safely and then moves forward to give him a hug. Emintai, while looking confused, asks why he's being thanked, and Hunwook responds that it's for showing up right on time for training. As he thinks over it, Hunwook realizes that while he's living this life with these people, it might not be so bad to let them watch. Back for once. With that thought, he turns to the group and signals that it's time to move while telling everyone that training is about to begin. A phenomenon where countless gates violently emerge inside a certain zone is known as a wave. Before long, a wave is set to sweep over Seoul while twisting the city into a nightmare, and the only one aware of this future is Hyunuk. He wonders if he can block the wave alone, if anyone could survive in the chaos, but now he realizes clearly that he can't manage this by himself. Meanwhile, Junmo mentions that C and lower rankers are barred from using the training center and folks like them can't train there, but Hunuk reminds them that they were the ones craving real training. Junmo questions how they can start with something like this, while Hunwook tells them that since they cleared the unlucky event, there's no reason to hesitate. All of them except Junmo leveled up this time, didn't they? Junmo insists they were just backups back then and now they need to handle things themselves. Hyunuk responds that if that's the case, then he will act as their backup. Juno wonders if he truly means it. Hunwook urges everyone to move quickly, but then the soldiers pause while pleading for help. Hyunuk informs them that the attribute training is starting now. Nearby, two girls notice and think that this is the corporal uncle, the frank uncle who carried the blockade mission and the unlucky event. One thinks she imagined he would look more rugged, but that's not how he appears at all. Hunwook thinks to himself that these kids should find this encouraging, though he wonders why his ears feel so itchy. Later, Seo Yuna instructs the soldier to buy the same number as the workers sent to each company, and they follow her command. She then contacts Hunwook and mentions that it should be time for personal training. He salutes her and mentions that he came to the PX to get energy supplements for his teammates who are in training. Then he notices Sanjuk and feels irritated while suspecting that he is about to start again. After that, a girl approaches Hyunuk and notes that she heard he earned the Dun's Rebellion achievement, and Hyunuk admits it. After that, Seo Yunha mentions that the report about his unusual accomplishment sounds convincing. However, she suspects there is something more that he keeps under wraps. Hyunuk wonders aloud about what he could possibly be keeping hidden. She remarks that he moves at odd moments, almost like he already knows what's coming. It feels as if he has information that others don't, or perhaps another purpose in mind. Hyunuk responds that he doesn't quite understand what she means by that. Yet inside, he questions if she truly knows something for her to bring this up now. Still, he decides he won't share anything with her. Meanwhile, Sanjok, while standing close by, explains to say that he hasn't mentioned anything while claiming he said it to someone else instead. Just then, an announcement echoes from the admin room while calling out for Corporal Hunwook to report immediately. The voice repeats while requesting Corporal Hyunuk to head to the battalion commander's office at once. The broadcast ends while letting Hyunuk know that the battalion commander has summoned him. Meanwhile, Suna feels annoyed at the timing. She reminds him not to forget while mentioning she isn't sure what he's aiming for, but she keeps an eye on him while telling him to leave now. He listens to her order and responds with a wish for her to have a good day. Stepping out, he feels relieved, thinking he should avoid that stubborn Seo Yuna for a while. Yet he wonders what this call could be about since the promotion ceremony is still a few days away. Later, near the battalion commander's office, Hyunuk hears someone inside arguing that this can't be called a test, claiming that sending them there would get all their men killed. Then he knocks on the door. A voice tells him to enter. He steps in, salutes, and states that he has arrived while addressing Brigadier General Young Cho. The general acknowledges him while mentioning that Kangok contacted him, but he cuts him off while mentioning he will explain it himself. A few days earlier, a red gate appeared in the Shinrim area with the Blue Flower Guild securing raid rights for it. The general points out the need to get a grip while questioning why they are hesitating when they belong to the same guild. He then shares a story where a soldier from the Blue Flower Guild claims everyone has lost their minds and gone insane, with the Blue Flower's third raid squad confirmed to be wiped out today. The gate has now been marked as Trouble Rank 3. Hunwook reflects that he doesn't recall such an incident happening. The general then explains that with an entry cap of level 18 or below and a limit of 30 players, the area is known to be a zombie dungeon where one cannot exit until the raid is cleared. Hearing the word zombie, Hanwok thinks about whether it could be the necromancer, the commander of the dead army. The brigadier general continues while mentioning that the arrogant Blue Flower Guild sacrificed a group of promising rookies and still failed the raid. Technically, dungeon raiding is the guild's business, so the troops do not have to step in. However, the general believes Hanwok is the right person to handle this mission. At that moment, young Sho turns to Hanwok and inquires if he can handle it. Instantly, Hanwok understands that this event never occurred in his previous life. Moreover, while considering it involves zombies, it might connect to the necromancer. He feels that he must be the one to clear this raid. With that in mind, he agrees to take on the Red Gate. Yoongil internally notes that as expected, this guy truly has nerve. However, Hinwick points out that before heading in, it's smart to secure every possible advantage. He admits that tackling the Red Gate raid with his current gear won't be feasible. Now, he brings up the fail not he mentioned previously while reminding the Brigadier General that if it is handed over, he will ensure the raid's success. Even though the weapon holds outstanding precision and can nullify magic, it's challenging to recover and is typically a one-time use weapon. Because of this, even in Yuncho's possession, it remains a precious tool reserved for desperate moments. Yet, in Hywok Unk's hands, with his ability to manipulate metal, it transforms into something entirely different. Young Cho acknowledges that this makes it a transaction rather than a favor, while warning that Hunuk will carry the full consequences if things go wrong. Calmly, Hunuk notes that high-stake risks often come with heavy rewards. In the end, normally senior officers lead dungeon raids, but despite that, the Brigadier is putting a regular soldier like Hanwok in charge. Hywok realizes this likely has to do with the general's quiet competition with the Blue Flower Guild master, Yuj Hyuk. If the mission turns out well, it'll mark significant win for an ordinary soldier over an elite from Blue Flower. On the other hand, if it fails, they can still claim they were only there as support, so the responsibility won't fall entirely on them. That way, the image of AMT being ineffective can be pushed aside, and Hanwok can claim a mental win against Blue Flower. Shortly after, the Brigadier informs him that he'll be given the fail not immediately. At that moment, Hanwok comes to understand that regardless of what happens, the Brigadier has placed himself in a position where he gains something either way. As things move forward, the Brigadier lets him know that since he'll be too caught up in the raid, his promotion to Sergeant will be handled afterward. Frustrated, Hanwok thinks he has no intention of being used so easily. He then reminds the Brigadier that the fail not was already promised as a reward earlier, so if he completes this mission successfully, he wants an extra reward in return. The Brigadier nods and assures him that he'll consider it as long as the raid is successful. With that, Hunuk gives his thanks and promises to do everything possible to make sure the mission doesn't fail. Later, when he arrives at the gathering point, one of the soldiers comments that he's a little late, while Junmo adds that the C-rank training area isn't anything special. Confidence seems high among the troops, but without warning, Hunuk instructs them all to gear up. The group seems confused at first. Then he calls his support team and informs them that they're heading out for their first ever independent operation. This news surprises everyone, especially since none of them ever expected or even wished for a solo mission. 2 days later, Hunu informs the other soldiers that since they're entering a zombie-type dungeon, they'll be using bullets charged with holy energy. He warns them that these rounds have more kickback than standard ones, so they should handle them carefully. This isn't a simulation anymore, so he reminds everyone to stay sharp. The team quietly receives his instructions, fully understanding the seriousness. One soldier then checks if Hunuk has brought the fail not. He confirms with a nod and takes a moment to glance at the weapon. Without delay, he signals the raid squad to dismount. All members step out of the vehicle together. At that time, they're stationed at the Limdong Red Gate near the Blue Flower Guild's base camp. A leader from the guild soon appears and informs Hanwok that he's expected to attend the operation briefing before entering. Hanwok turns to Junmo asking him to oversee the team for the time being. Junmo acknowledges the task, and then Junmo quietly tells Anmint that it's clear the Blue Flower members aren't too thrilled to have them there. Meanwhile, at another part of the camp, a group of Blue Flower Guild soldiers are talking among themselves. One soldier points out that AMT's team is just a backup squad made up of regular soldiers. Their own support unit already feels like the lowest tier, so having to coordinate with AMT feels like too much of a liability. They begin murmuring concerns about something called Operation Retrieval, while worrying that AMT might catch on to the plan. Another soldier quickly hushes the conversation while warning that someone might overhear them. The first one apologizes for speaking too openly. Nearby, Hanwok picks up on the phrase Operation Retrieval and quietly wonders what they're referring to. As the Blue Flower soldiers continue chatting, one mentions that they plan to abandon AMT as soon as they step inside the gate and continue the raid on their own. Someone argues that this will leave AMT in serious danger, but the other soldier brushes it off while saying that every raid puts lives at risk and each person has to prioritize their own survival. Later, Hanwok steps into the meeting room where a woman is already waiting. He questions her about the scheduled meeting. She responds casually while mentioning she had a feeling he would show up. She also brings up how he didn't hide the fact that he was an F rank during their last encounter and offers him her business card. As she speaks, Hunwook realizes that not recognizing his low rank and then handing him her card must have left her feeling awkward. She moves the conversation forward while brushing aside the past and focusing on the upcoming raid. She reminds him that his team is only playing a backup role. According to her, once they enter the gate, AMT should stay out of the way and avoid interfering with Blue Flower Guild's movements. She mentions she called him just to make that clear. Internally, Hunuk thinks this must be the reason Blue Flower agreed to bring in regular soldiers for support to sideline them completely. But he has no intention of staying quiet and following orders blindly. Calmly but firmly, he lets her know that his team has just as much right to be part of the raid as Blue Flower does. In response, she questions him mockingly while asking if he plans to take on the boss monster. She admits that he might have the ability and courage but doubts his decision. Before she can go on, Hunuk cuts her off and challenges her while asking why they shouldn't fight the boss monster. He wonders if she's afraid they might actually win. She laughs loudly, clearly amused, and mocks him further while bringing up the Soul Station incident and implying that it was nothing but luck. But Hunwook disagrees, and he insists that success had nothing to do with luck. Her tone sharpens as she accuses him of having a death wish. Then, almost tauntingly, she dares him to enter before they do, but suddenly she changes her mind and tells him he can't go first. She explains that 3 of the current top 100 players are participating in this raid. In her view, his squad should stay behind and not become a nuisance. At that moment, Hunuk starts wondering if the woman is actually Yu Hina, as she isn't reacting to any provocation. The mention of Operation Retrieval still lingers in his mind, and he realizes there's something more going on, something he hasn't figured out yet. Curious, he addresses her by her former name, but she calmly introduces herself as Catherine. Not backing down, Hunuk then challenges her with a wager. He proposes that if his team defeats the boss monster before Blueflower does, she'll owe him something of his choosing. Catherine, however, warns him that he probably doesn't fully understand the weight of making a bet with her. She then raises the stakes that if the opposite happens, he must offer his life to her. Without hesitation, Hunuk agrees. Deep inside, he thinks that whatever secrets lie hidden within the gate, he'll uncover them and take whatever is being kept away. Afterward, Catherine turns to her guild and gives the order for Blue Flower to head in first. She tells them to prepare, raise their shields, and get moving before AMT catches up. She urges her squad to enter quickly as the AMT raid unit is set to move in 3 minutes. Meanwhile, over in the AMT formation, Junmo checks on Mint and asks if he's feeling uneasy, and calmly replies that he's doing just fine. Then, Hunwook gathers the team and reminds them to stay focused and perform just like they did during their drills. He tells them to control their breathing and be steady. The squad silently obeys and prepares as one. Shortly after, they enter the dungeon. Inside, chaos unfolds quickly. The leader of the Blue Flower Troop is the first to fall, crushed brutally by a monster. One after another, their members are overwhelmed and wiped out by the creatures. On the other side, the AMT squad stands firm as the boss monster, the Zombie King, suddenly emerges. It appears directly in front of the AMT troop. Without delay, Hunuk instructs the AMT raid squad to shoot at the creature. However, in that instant, he senses something is off. There seems to be a barrier. He quickly tells Choi Taeyong to open fire, yet his mind briefly drifts back to a previous talk they had shared. Back then, Choi had raised a concern, wondering whether their drill training was even effective when modern weapons barely harm monsters and lack the destructive force of high-ranking players. At the time, Hunuk had acknowledged his point. He had responded that indeed they wouldn't be able to inflict any serious damage. Their bullets were almost like rubber in comparison. Still, the purpose behind using rifles in this operation wasn't to kill. It was for the sound. Zombies, although their senses had decayed, still reacted strongly to noise. So while the firearms couldn't take them down, the loud shots could confuse and scatter them while dulling their perception and allowing the squad to maneuver. But right after, one of the soldiers had voiced another worry. What if the zombies inside this dungeon retained other sharp senses as well? That thought now echoes in Hunuk Unk's mind as he watches the Zombie King. In that situation, their odds of completing the raid grow slimmer since most of the squad might end up turning into zombies. While this earlier conversation lingers, in his mind, Hunwook yells out to Kai Taeyong to move into position and begin firing. At the same time, he instructs Anmai to shoot as well. Suddenly, a loud explosion erupts and without warning, a wave of zombies begins rushing toward the soldiers. Quickly adapting, Hunuk directs Cho Minj, Junmo, and Kimong to swap their magazines. They swiftly reload and then Hunuk resumes shooting without pause, his movements precise and relentless. Observing his outstanding combat skills, Kimong Jin starts to believe that Hunwook must be using a rare grade item. The moment he activates it, all the surrounding zombies disappear instantly while leaving even the Zombie King stunned by what just happened. With the area now cleared, the soldiers finally get a chance to breathe. They rest off to the side, their legs aching and exhaustion visible on their faces. As they catch their breath, they quietly talk among themselves while feeling that at least for now, the crisis has passed. At first, Hunwook believes they avoided danger just as planned, but even so, something still doesn't feel right. The number of zombies they faced was far less than what he had anticipated. On top of that, he notices something strange, that the boss monster's name appears glitched in the notification window. Despite his unease, he instructs the soldiers to stay alert while reminding them that the gate hasn't been cleared completely yet. Urging them to keep moving, he adds that they should leave the area as soon as possible. As the team pushes forward, a vampire silently observes them from high above while nodding with interest that these intruders seem different from the usual ones. Meanwhile, Hunwook begins to feel increasingly unsettled. He realizes that there's nothing surrounding the dungeon. No structures, no enemies, not even a trace of life. The area is eerily empty. He reflects that despite taking part in countless raids, he's never seen a place quite like this. Suddenly, from about 20 meters behind him, he picks up on movement, a foreign metallic object shifting. As he approaches, prepared to strike, a voice pleads for mercy. Revealing that he's human, the figure explains he had been hiding because he mistook them for zombies. He then introduces himself as Kim Taup, a survivor from the 3rd Raid Squad. The name catches Hunwook off guard while making him pause in surprise. A question immediately crosses his mind, that why is this man all alone? The young man, clearly shaken, struggles to speak at first. Finally, he manages to ask if they have any water or food, his voice faint and tired. Elsewhere, inside the temporary ops room of the Blue Flower Guild, one of the guild members informs their raid leader about a recent development. He mentions that the Guang group has just sent a classified cooperation letter to all the top guilds. According to him, regular soldiers were dispatched for the current raid. He goes on to mention that any player who successfully recovers the chairman's grandson's body, along with the rare grade spear of Achilles during the second joint raid, will receive a reward of 80 billion. Along with that, the Players Guild will also get a large sponsorship from the Blue Flower Guild. Meanwhile, back on the field, Kim Takup reveals to Hae-Unwook that their original mission was to retrieve the spear. However, during the first attempt at the gate, the chairman's second grandson, Gyuang-hun, had failed while carrying the spear of Achilles, which is known as a powerful symbol of the Guang group. This finally helps Hunwook piece everything together. He now understands why the renowned Yuhana had been acting so cautious, because the legendary spear of Achilles is involved. It also becomes clear why the other guilds had shown such aggression during the talks about making it a joint raid. As he notices Anmintai gently patting his head, Hunwook asks him what's wrong, but Mint brushes it off while saying it's nothing, though something still feels off. Far in the distance, the vampire keeps observing. Amused, he tries to make sense of the situation while thinking that this time might turn out to be entertaining. Since the others seem to be simply chatting, he decides he might need to create the excitement himself. Just then, Hunwook suddenly detects multiple unknown metals rushing in their direction, at least 120 of them. He stiffens in alarm while realizing the number keeps rising, and he realized that it could turn into something dangerous. Hae-Unwook senses something is coming, and they don't have much time left. He calls the squad to attention while declaring firmly that they'll proceed with Plan C. He then turns to Anmint and Cho Minj, while telling them to ready the equipment and start potion doping. The soldiers immediately obey, each one replying with crisp acknowledgement. They begin consuming mana stars and HP stars, quickly restoring their energy in preparation for battle. Just then, Kim Tess from the Blue Flower Guild troop stumbles in and notices what's happening. He looks confused while asking what's going on. However, Hunwook pays him no mind, already shouting toward Juno that he knows what his role is. Junmo hears him and affirms that he fully understands. Kim Top, clearly unsettled by being ignored, raises his voice again. He insists that someone needs to tell him what Plan C is. In his view, he should be informed like everyone else. At this, Hunwook finally responds. He explains plainly that they are going to run. He warns the man to stay right behind them, otherwise he'll end up turning into a zombie. Still Kim Tess doesn't quite follow. He starts to speak again, but just then, a sudden blast echoes from behind. He turns around and freezes. Without wasting a second, he calls out for the AMT raid squad to withdraw from the current zone. From the shadows, the vampire watches the entire scene unfold. He observes with interest and muses that their so-called plan while sacrificing one of their own as bait feels far too simplistic. Still, he mutters that the bait would be of no use if he himself kills it in an instant. On the front line, Hunwook continues fighting with everything he has. Kim Tessup gasps while realizing that Plan C may have just been a plan to abandon Hunwook entirely and flee. It seems too reckless. Yet Juno responds with confidence while explaining that Corporal Hunwook had crafted this strategy himself, and he is not the type to fail or act without reason. As the team flees from the approaching metal storm, they are forced to dodge a new wave of enemies, zombies, seething with rage while descending upon them. Their snarls fill the air louder and wilder with every step. However, Hunwook doesn't retreat. He yells to smash and launches a fierce attack. His power explodes outward while striking the zombies hard. Many of them collapse on the spot while unmoving. The vampire watches amused. He notices the iron beads Hunwook used, small but glowing with divine power. He now understands that Hunwook had been positioned as bait for a very specific reason. Still, he knows the noise from those divine beads will soon draw even more zombies, and those will be even harder to control. Suddenly, the largest zombie makes its appearance. Its size towers above the others and its fury is unmatched. It lets out a monstrous roar while shaking the dungeon. Hunwook narrows his eyes. Among the incoming zombies, he senses something unusual, a type of metal unlike any other, something of a far higher grade. He realizes in that moment that this might not be a creature at all. It might be a person. He starts thinking that whoever this is, he can't possibly be just another villain. Part of him wonders if it's someone he already knows. His gaze shifts instinctively to the vampire. While he's lost in thought, two flying zombies shoot toward him. He reacts instantly while slashing through them with a precise combo. His attacks are sharp and relentless. Still, more zombies keep coming. He knows he has to keep pushing. The vampire, while watching from afar, starts to doubt his earlier expectations. He reflects that maybe he had expected too much from this fight. Yet the divine-infused iron beads were no afterthought Hunwook had prepared carefully. Still, the vampire notices Hunwook's energy fading. He also sees that the shards of the iron beads are now scattered, likely to be used again. Hunwook gathers his last reserve of strength and unleashes a skill. Steel rain, free fall. Metal shards rain down from above while tearing through the zombie horde. Explosions thunder around them. The massive zombie cries out, and as the blast intensifies, a brilliant light bursts outward. One of the men watching all this in disbelief stammers out his thoughts. He recalls that the plan had been to use one man as bait and run. It no longer makes sense. Another soldier quickly corrects him while pointing out that this was never about abandoning anyone. From the beginning, it had been a deception operation to lure the zombies away from Corporal Hunwook. They had all been running while talking, all to serve the illusion. The vampire watches the plan unfold with growing interest. A realization hits him that Hunwook had never been the bait at all. This was a full raid strategy designed from the start. He bursts into laughter while admitting to himself that he never imagined these soldiers would be this entertaining. Hunwook catches the vampire laughing and grows uneasy. Something feels off. He starts thinking carefully. The vampire is laughing, but why? What's his true motive for entering the raid gate? And more than anything, Hunwook realizes that the man blends in too well with the zombies. A deeper suspicion forms inside him. He starts to believe that he might know this man from somewhere. The vampire's grin widens. He declares to himself that now he wants to taste Hunwook's blood. He plans to soak his spear in it. Then with a loud crash, he slams his sword into the ground. Hunwook can no longer hold back. Fury blazing in his eyes, he asks only once if the man is a necromancer. The vampire's eyes flicker with surprise. The question catches him off guard. He grows still, shaken that Hunwook could even know about necromancers. This unexpected reaction makes Hunwook hesitate. He begins to wonder if he had been wrong all along. Maybe this man isn't the necromancer after all. The vampire steps forward, voice cold and sharp. He warns that if Hunwook wants a peaceful death, he'd better speak clearly because now he wants to know how Hunwook knows about necromancers. He demands to know who Hunwook really is. Without hesitation, he lunges forward while drawing his sword to strike. He blocks the strike while saving himself from a fatal blow. He mentally notes that if it hadn't been for the fusion of Manon and M. Lyre's secret armor with his steel body, his arm would have been sliced clean off. Realizing he has to act fast, he activates a skill and launches an attack. Blades spin through the air while flying towards the vampire. Yet suddenly, a shield forms in front of the vampire while protecting him completely. The sight stuns Hunwook. The vampire has successfully saved himself, but what shocks Hunwook even more is how effortlessly he did it. At that moment, Hunwook thinks about the attack pattern. It's far beyond what level 18 is supposed to handle. He becomes more and more certain. This guy has already surpassed the Red Gate's restrictions. As they continue to face each other, Hunwook demands to know how he even got inside. Meanwhile, the vampire's hand begins to burn. Shards of divine bead embedded by Hunwook now sear his flesh. Observing closely, Hunwook notes the vampire's reaction. That confirms it. Only beings harmed by divine power react that way. He realizes what he's dealing with. A player devouring player. A vampire from the evil tribe that destroyed the AMT. Evidently, his words strike a nerve. The vampire explodes in fury while calling Hunwook a master at provoking people. He yanks the burning shards from his skin, which begins to regenerate quickly. Then, without giving Hunwook a chance to respond, he threatens to chop off a limb or two if that's what it takes to make him talk. Hunwook, while trying to stay calm, focuses on the weapon in the vampire's hand. It's the spear of Achilas, the very one the Guang group is searching for. He concludes that its true powers must have awakened. If that's the case, then even with his steel body and secret armor, he won't survive a hit. He knows the potion effect will only last a little over 2 minutes. He has to end this before then. As he thinks this through, the vampire narrows his gaze and declares he'll break him open if necessary. He launches into the air again while aiming his next attack. Both of them clash in mid-combat. Hanwha counters with metal control, but the attack doesn't land. The vampire weaves through it and mocks him for using the same tricks. Feeling frustrated, Hanwha watches his opponent block every long distancing attempt. It becomes clear that he won't be able to land any bead shard hits in close combat is too risky with that spear. So he begins to run while analyzing his options. While running, he reflects that he's left with no other choice. He has to play his last card earlier than expected. High above, the vampire rages. He screams while demanding how Hanwha dares to even utter that name. Someone he shouldn't know. In response, Hanwha keeps sprinting while accepting that it's time. He answers indirectly while introducing himself as a soldier. He wonders aloud whether the vampire even served while suspecting he never joined the military. The vampire snaps back in confusion while demanding answers and calling Hanwha ridiculous. But Hanwha presses further. He states his assumption was right. The vampire didn't serve in the military at all. Meanwhile, in another corner of the battlefield, chaos continues. Junmo prepares to activate something when an AMT raid soldier rushes in and stops him while urging him not to waste the chance. With the boss monster nowhere to be seen, even the raid squad wouldn't survive against the remaining zombies. Another soldier remarks grimly that Hanwha is likely already dead. They need to hide. But Juno refuses to believe it. He responds with conviction. Corporal Hanwha isn't someone who would fall so easily. One of the soldiers demands to know how he can be so sure. Juno answers that they haven't received the signal yet. Confused, the soldier presses for clarification just as another soldier arrives and calls out Juno's name. Junmo responds quickly, and the new arrival tells him to strap a claymore mine to his back before leaving the zone. Junmo checks that is it the KM-18A1. The soldier confirms. If it explodes, it means he used his last resort. When that happens, Junmo must ensure the squad hides immediately. At the same time, Hanwha's voice roars across the battlefield. He shouts that it's time and yells, "Blast!" A massive explosion follows. Metal shards fly everywhere while burning the vampire. Hanwha hides for safety, but when he peeks out, he sees the vampire burned but still alive. The vampire howls in rage while demanding how Hanwha dares to attack. Someone who was chosen, someone bonded to the spear. He announces that he cannot be killed so easily. However, Hanwha sees his chance. He leaps back into action and launches another attack while using all of his power. The vampire, overwhelmed, takes several hits. He's shocked. The strikes come so fast he can't even follow them. As he struggles, the vampire mutters in disbelief. The claymore wasn't meant to kill him, and it was only a distraction. Hanwha's true card was something else entirely. Then with a smirk, he reveals his hidden weapon that is an arrow. Hanwha hears him but doesn't flinch. He responds that the arrow is infused with his own power and it won't be removed so easily, but he reassures the vampire that he won't die just yet. Now it's Hanwha's turn to ask the questions. Meanwhile, a member of the Blue Flower Guild, who's been teaming up with AMT instead of sticking with his own group, glances at Juno and points out that the explosion looks exactly like the signal they had just discussed. Juno nods in confirmation. The Blue Flower Guild member shrugs and mentions that he already said anyone alone out here would have ended up dead in the worst way. He advises that if they've got combat rations, they should just lie low and wait for the rear squad to arrive while assuring them that they'll survive that way. This comment clearly irritates Junmo with frustration. He glares at the man. The Blue Flower member, now nervous, asks what the problem is. Junmo sternly responds that the signal might mean one of their own could be dead and questions how he could even think about joking right now. The man fumbles while saying it's unfortunate, but they still have to survive somehow. He then turns to the group and tells everyone to hide quickly. Before they can move, another explosion suddenly bursts out while sending panic through the troops. Then, out of nowhere, a structure starts forming right in front of them. One of the soldiers points it out, shocked. They've never seen anything like this, not even during drills. Soon after, hordes of zombies begin materializing alongside the building. Another soldier shouts in disbelief as the undead appear in large numbers. Trying to take control, Juno motions for everyone to keep quiet while signaling them not to make a sound so the zombies wouldn't detect them. But fear overwhelms the Blue Flower Guild member and he bolts. His sudden movement catches the attention of the zombies, who immediately shift their gaze toward the group. Chaos erupts as the undead charge toward them. Junmo instantly commands the squad to fire. As bullets start flying, one of the soldiers panics while commenting that there are far too many. Junmo yells at them to find cover wherever they can. At the same time, Hanwha is locked in a fight with a vampire. The vampire is pinned against a tree, an arrow stuck deep in his elbow. He struggles to pull it out but fails. The arrow isn't just physical, it's dampening his powers. The pain clearly weighs on him. Hanwha, while standing nearby, keeps his cool. He doesn't rush to finish the vampire off. Instead, he starts interrogating him. The vampire scoffs at the idea of being killed by something so minor. Hanwha admits he can't instantly kill him without divine power, but reminds the vampire that endless blood loss can feel worse than death. This comment rattles the vampire, who demands to know how Hanwok knows so much. When the vampire tries to remove the arrow again, Hyunuk pushes it in, further using his magic. He then asks about the connection between the vampire and the second grandson of the great Gugwang group, while suggesting he might be the one funding him. The vampire growls at the question and flares up, but the increasing pain keeps him from lashing out. Hyun grins slightly while nodding that the vampire's anger is proof he hit the mark. Encouraged by this, he keeps pressing. Next, he brings up the mysterious figure that the necromancer. The vampire, however, scoffs and shows pity while calling Hanwok clueless. He explains that the necromancer could be anyone, possibly someone right beside Hanwok or even a loved one. Hanwok notes to himself that the vampire seems desperate for acknowledgement, yet refuses to give clear answers. He guesses the vampire has never seen the necromancer in person. The vampire calls Hanwok pathetic while mocking him for assuming too much. He mentions that someone as secretive as the necromancer wouldn't show himself or reveal his thoughts, even to someone under his command. Hanwok, unimpressed, throws back a sharp jab while asking if that makes the vampire just a creepy follower. As the two argue, a massive snake slithers behind Hanwok while preparing to strike, but Lee remains focused. The vampire rages and commands the snake to attack while shouting that Hanwok knows nothing. Yet Hanwok, while anticipating this move, quickly impales the snake with a spear and ending it instantly. He casually thanks the vampire for the item while nodding he'll make good use of it. In his thoughts, Hanwok starts piecing things together. If the necromancer had truly awakened, he would have made a move by now. But if he hasn't, why is this vampire so blindly devoted to him? Things aren't adding up. With frustration, he suddenly snaps at the vampire while demanding to know how he even got inside the raid gate. The Blue Flower Guild was guarding the entrance, so how did he slip in alone? The vampire snarls in response, while asking how Hyunuk entered when the gate has a strict level cap as nobody above level 18 should be able to pass. That comment catches Hanwok off guard. If this vampire opened the gate himself, then maybe one person can indeed manipulate a gate. The vampire chuckles at Hanwok's shocked reaction while saying it proves he knows nothing. He warns that the second phase is about to begin. Hanwok starts noticing changes in the environment. The terrain is shifting fast. He realizes he might lose the vampire and even the fail-not weapon if he doesn't act fast. He rips the arrow out of the vampire just as a new warning pops up that Zombie King's castle has appeared. Hanwok stiffens. So this is what the second phase meant. The vampire cackles with glee. He brags that the real phase of the raid is now starting and soon Hanwok will taste the true horrors of this world, all planned by him. Back at Junmo's side, the group stays hidden from the undead, but tension spikes again as the Zombie King suddenly emerges into the area. The vampire, still with Hyunuk, explains that this being Baron Semdi commands both life and death, light and shadow. As he appears, he grants vision to all previously summoned zombies. Their power and coordination increase drastically. The vampire taunts Hanwok while his comrades used as bait will now be sacrificed, and the zombies will flood the outside world once they breach the gate. Hanwok, for the first time in the entire battle, feels a cold shiver. The vampire ends his words with a wicked laugh, while challenging Hyunuk to stop the descent of the true Zombie King. Baron Semedi. Hyunuk, taken aback by this development, realizes that because of him, the monsters now have eyes. The moment marks a turning point. The creatures begin to detect the hidden soldiers and launch their attack. Chaos quickly follows. Hanwok observes the zombies moving directly toward them, now fully aware of their targets. Gunfire erupts as the soldiers return fire in panic. Recognizing the danger, Hyunuk informs the raid squad that the zombies have gained vision and volunteers to cover their escape. As the others begin pulling back, the Zombie King keeps his eyes locked on the soldiers and smashes rocks aimed at harming them. In the midst of the tension, Hyun hurls a grenade while triggering a massive blast. Turning to Private Park Junmo, Anmint, and Cho Minj, he urges them to retreat immediately while reminding them they won't last long if they stay. He mentions the brutal truth that confidence alone won't help when it comes to taking down a comrade turned into a zombie. Amid the flurry of grenades thrown toward the attacking zombies, sparks flash continuously in the smoky air. Despite this, Park Junmo assures Hyunuk that if he goes down, they'll go with him. Hearing that from his teammates, Hyunuk orders the squad to retreat completely and to use all the remaining grenades. Meanwhile, the Zombie King declares that he will offer the last of their comrades as sacrifices. In the background, his castle in Dako nears full construction. As a result, the gate's entry restriction rises from level 18 to level 30. He then reveals his plan that the zombies will attempt to break through the gate and flood into the outside world, and the squad must try to stop them. The atmosphere turns more dire as the soldiers race to dodge the Zombie King's relentless blows. Hanwok sprints quickly, all the while hearing nearby grenade explosions echo from a close-by building. He considers the claymore mine he placed. If it detonates, that would be his final option, while signaling to the others that they must hide no matter what. Just as he starts to express his Thoughts, Park Jun-mo interrupts while assuring him that they'll all be waiting, so he must survive and return. Hunwook responds with certainty that he'll come back while urging them to wait for him. Pushing forward, he races toward the zombies. Holding the Achillea spear tightly, he unlocks it while raising his mana to extreme levels. The zombies flood toward him, but he reminds himself of the promise he made to come back no matter what and begins smashing through them with sheer strength. At that moment, the Zombie King himself appears in front of him, furious that his descent has been disrupted. His rage is unmistakable. Meanwhile, other AMT members, also retreating, are still under attack. Kim Kai-Woong-jin, oddly enough, carries a large jar while causing Cho Taeyang to question the reason. Kim responds vaguely while stating that he just had a feeling the jar is important to the Zombie King. Despite the situation, they keep running as the zombies chase from behind. Park Jun-mo then shows up while firing at the creatures and shouting for them to hurry. He reports that the C4 setup is finished and asks Anmint to provide cover. Following his lead, Mint moves to the front and together they detonate the explosives. A powerful explosion follows while throwing both zombies and soldiers to the ground. Fortunately, the squad survives, though shaken, they're unharmed. Looking around, they realize the zombie gate seems blocked, at least for now. But there's a new problem. They're trapped inside the building and oxygen could run out soon if they stay. Park Jun-mo notes that they've dealt with the urgent threat and must now locate an exit as quickly as possible. They head off only to be met again by the Zombie King, whose fury hasn't cooled. His gaze lands on the stolen jar and he laughs with dark amusement. Shock spreads through the squad as they confront him. Suddenly, Hyunuk reappears while commanding everyone to halt. Park Juno feels relief seeing him alive. As Hyunuk faces the Zombie King, he mutters to himself that he's the only one allowed to mess with his teammates. The soldiers freeze in surprise for a second. Suddenly, a system alert pops up while warning that a large chunk of mana has been burned in a short span. Only 32% remains. He realizes he's been acting tough, but now he's low on mana and completely clueless about how to beat this terrifying enemy. Now standing face to face with the Zombie King, he wonders if the monster is a long-range type. Gripping his spear tightly, Hyunuk rushes in. The Zombie King looks furious at the sight of him, but strangely, he doesn't attack. That catches Hyunuk off guard. He starts to think something doesn't feel right. Meanwhile, Park Jumo tells the squad to ready their gear. During the intense fight, Hunwook keeps thinking that something is off. Maybe it's because of that. Just then, the Zombie King charges forward and swings hard. Hunwook clenches his teeth but gets slammed and falls hard to the ground. Anger fills him as the squad stares in shock. Quickly recovering, he tosses mana potions to the others. Rising to his feet, he walks toward the Zombie King again while gripping the Achillea spear tighter than before. He reignites its power, although he's running dangerously low on mana. Then he calls for Anmint to defend the front line. With him blocking ahead, Hunwook gulps down a mana star which temporarily boosts his energy for 5 minutes. With renewed energy, he challenges the Zombie King, activating a smash skill with his spear. He drives it straight at the monster, but the Zombie King grabs the weapon mid-air. Hunwook instantly realizes the problem, that it's the barrier. If he keeps wasting attacks blindly, he'll lose all his gear. And with the squad depending on him, he can't afford to back off and look for a weakness. The soldiers stay behind their shields while holding off the monster's pressure. Hunwook starts thinking again that if the descent isn't fully complete, there has to be some weak spot. But where? Just then Kim Kong-jin stands with a sword in hand. Park Juno approaches while asking where the sword came from. He warns him not to mess with dungeon items since their effects are unknown. Kim calmly responds that they don't have a choice anymore. Even Hyunuk can't leave them behind. Someone has to act. Right as the Zombie King charges at them, Park Jun-mo quickly tells Kim to stab. Jun-woo slammed his sword into the creature's heart and the monster fell to its knees. Hunwook looks at his team and asks if they're okay. Park Juno confirms they're all holding up, but Hunwook remains confused about what's really happening. Then they all notice the Zombie King now sitting and seething in rage. He spots a jar, one that Kim had snatched earlier. At the same time, Hunwook sees the sword stuck in the monster and wonders whether it struck the heart or lungs. The Zombie King lets out a deafening roar so loud the squad can't even hear themselves think. A warning appears again. The forced restart of the descent of the Zombie King Baron Simeti has begun. A new alert pops up that the spirit of incomplete death is flowing through the Zombie King and the level cap has jumped to 53. Then it all clicks for Hyunwook. The jars work just like the Kopik jars from Egypt, vessels that store a mummy's organs. If this monster is like that, then the heart must hold his spirit. That's the weak point. With the barrier up and the king distracted, now's his shot. Pulling out fail, Hunwook locks in on the heart and takes aim. But as the arrow flies, the Zombie King's wounds start healing rapidly because of the descent effect. Still, Hyunuk doesn't back down. He thinks this healing won't last. He charges once more with the Achillea spear and focuses all his strength. This weapon will wipe out that annoying regeneration, he believes. As the spear slams into the monster, the Zombie King howls in agony. That's when he notices a strange metal closing in fast, and he knows deep down this time he's in serious trouble. As he notices Anmint, he questions what he's up to and orders him to activate the shield. Following the command, Anmint casts the shield to block the Zombie King's fierce blows, using it as cover. Hunwook joins him behind the barrier and Anmint checks if he's doing okay. Observing his ability in action, Hunwook is taken aback and wonders about the skill. Anmint explains that ever since entering the dungeon, his level has been rising rapidly. The last time he stopped the Zombie King's attack, he leveled up and finally unlocked the shield skill. Just like Hunwook once mentioned, the world standard no longer applies. While he continues speaking, a system alert pops up while letting him know that a level 1 magic shield has been granted. Hunwook, however, questions how he could rely on an untested skill that might have gotten him killed. Anmint responds that he just wanted to protect him. In return, Hunwook admits he gets it, but reminds him it's his own duty to shield the rest, so he shouldn't push himself too hard. Anmint shows gratitude, but Hunwook shrugs it off while saying he should save the thanks for when they all make it out alive. As the battle presses on, another alert suddenly appears that the descent process has been interrupted. The Zombie King now looks more intense than ever. A further warning signals that an incomplete spirit of death is spreading through his body, and soon it will pull him back into death. The creature lets out a monstrous growl. Still, despite his condition worsening, he charges forward, while suggesting that this might be his final attempt to drag them down with him. Thinking quickly, Hunwook tells Kai Taeyang to block the Zombie King's view with continuous fire. Choi doesn't hesitate and starts shooting non-stop. Meanwhile, Park Jun-mo encourages the raid squad to use distraction tactics until Hunwook regains his mana. Hunwook tries to stop them from risking too much, but Park insists that they'll buy him some time while leaving the final strike to him. Hunwook's mana slowly begins to recover as Chaeyoung keeps firing. However, he soon announces he's out of bullets. At that moment, Hunwook rushes in and gets the monster's attention while claiming himself as the true opponent. He recalls the only way to defeat the Zombie King is to destroy his organs stored in 3 Kopik jars, his liver, heart, and eyes. With a deafening roar from the monster, Hunwook closes in for the finishing blow. He pulls out the fail knot and strikes the creature's eye. He mocks the creature's disgraceful behavior while urging him to carry himself like a true king. Then, using the Cloud Blade, he delivers the final slash that ends the Zombie King's reign. A system message appears while congratulating him for slaying the enemy. Everyone freezes, stunned that the monster has truly been defeated. Then cheers erupt that the raid was a success. Hunwook receives a new item, the Crown of Light and Darkness, which he doesn't recognize from his past life. Even more curious, it seems to possess a unique trait. Suddenly, a danger alert flashes. The destruction of Indako, the Zombie King's stronghold, has begun. One soldier yells to Hunwook while snapping him out of his thoughts. He realizes they haven't even gathered loot or points yet, but there's no time. He urgently warns everyone to evacuate. The troops rush out while moving quickly through the collapsing fort. Another notification confirms that the raid is complete and the gate will shut soon. They all sprint toward the exit while trying to make it before it closes. Hunwook shouts out while urging them to move faster as the gate starts shrinking. Outside, Catherine is in the middle of a conversation with her guildmate, who brings up concerns about party-level requirements for the raid while saying every member must be at least level 53. She also questions whether going solo as Blue Flower Guild might backfire if the Gwang group withdraws support. They're caught off guard when they spot the gate starting to shut. And then one by one, the AMT troop bursts through. Hunwook flies out just in time as the gate seals behind them. Relief floods the group that they made it out alive. Hunwook gathers the group and praises them for their efforts while confirming the Red Gate raid is complete. Everyone celebrates, overwhelmed by success. Watching from a distance, Catherine becomes furious. She can't believe they cleared the Red Gate. She wonders who Hunwook really is. Back inside the ruined fort, Kim Top roams around. After receiving the gate clearance message, he had rushed there, but now he can't find the gate. Confused, he searches for the exit, convinced it was right there. Suddenly, a vampire steps out from the shadows behind him. At first, Kim assumes he's a human from the rescue team and tries to speak with him while asking for the way out, but the vampire lunges forward with intense bloodlust while revealing his true intentions. He slaughters Kim Tessup without hesitation, his mind consumed by thoughts of Hunwook. The vampire vows to take everything Hunwook holds dear and paint it all with blood. At the same time, Hunwook gives clear orders for the raid squad to line up in double file. Quickly, they arrange themselves in an organized line while looking like a polished crew. He then walks toward Catherine. As he approaches, she immediately wants answers. She asks about their own team. Hunwook explains that by the time they entered the gate, everything had already gone wrong. Catherine listens and then points out that he seems to be claiming success all on his own. Hunwook responds calmly while hinting that the upcoming gate analysis will confirm the truth. Naturally, his calm words upset her. Her voice grows sharper as she demands to know who he really is. She asks whether he's truly an F rank. Clearly shaken by his unexpected strength, he meets her glare and calmly questions if she really thinks his success was only luck. In return, she expresses doubt and says she'll believe everything once the results are out. Then she suddenly changes the topic and asks if he happened to see a spear-type item inside, possibly something their zombified Blue Flower Guild member carried, or maybe an item from the dungeon's treasure house. Her question triggers a memory in Hunwook. He recalls shouting for everyone to evacuate as the castle collapsed. During that moment, he had seen an item marked with the indomitable steel body and had taken it. However, back in the present, he lies and tells her he didn't see any spears. Instantly, she looks stunned. She had been confident that something like that was inside. She insists there must have been one, but as she keeps pressing him, Hunwook interrupts and accuses her of switching topics too often. He implies she's avoiding their bet and even teases her title while calling her the great department head of Seoul's Blue Flower Guild. He asks if she's trying to back out of her promise. Frustrated, she shouts again. Her emotions spike and Hunwook steps back slightly. He comments that she seems out of sorts and offers to return later to settle things. But before he can leave, she grabs his wrist tightly. She cries out that he should join the Blue Flower Guild right now and promises he'll receive the best treatment in the industry. For a moment, he pauses, thinking she only wants to grind him down and control him. Suddenly, a soldier announces the arrival of the 3rd AMT Brigadier General. Everyone salutes Corporal Hunwook. Choi Jong-cho walks in with a smile when he spots both Hunwook and Catherine together. He wastes no time and questions whether Catherine is trying to snatch away a key soldier before his discharge. Catherine quickly responds while claiming she only gave a suggestion, but Cho Young-cho presses further. He asks if Blue Flower violated rules and arranged a separate raid. His words leave her in disbelief. She denies it, but he continues while bringing up the Guweng Group 2 issue and claiming Blue Flower has overstepped multiple times. Then he announces that he'll file a formal complaint with the Blue Flower Guildmaster. He adds that an official document about this should also be sent to other guilds for discussion. Catherine clenches her fist so tightly in anger that blood starts dripping from her hand. Soon after, Cho Jong-cho and Hunwook head into a private room. There, the Brigadier General bursts into laughter and praises Hunwook for achieving 100% contribution in the raid. He admits he never saw it coming and can't wait to witness the Blue Flower Guild Master's reaction. Hunwook observes how much the man enjoys watching Blue Flower fail just this once. Moments later, Young-cho compliments him again and says it's his first time encountering someone like Hyun-wook. In response, Hunwook humbly mentions that he didn't do it alone and that his squad was with him the whole way. He begins to bring up the promise, but Young-cho cuts him off with another compliment and announces that every squad member will be promoted by 1 rank. He also grants Hywook the chance for a rank reevaluation. Hunwook feels uneasy about the older man's sly generosity. Still, he expresses thanks for the promotions, the rank reevaluation, and the promised reward. He uses formal words, but inside he knows how clever this man really is. Young-cho watches him closely and asks what he truly wants. Without hesitation, Hunwook asks for divine-powered weapons for his entire squad. Young is clearly shocked by this. He turns toward Hunwook and reminds him that the zombie gate has just ended, and yet he's already making such a bold request. Meanwhile, in another area, a young boy bursts into a room and shouts some shocking news that the support squad has cleared the level 53 red gate all on their own. A nearby soldier scoffs while thinking it's nonsense, but the boy insists it's true, even revealing that Corporal Hunwook received a scouting offer from Blue Flower. The soldiers in the room are stunned. One of them points out that this might mean Hunwook has surpassed Sergeant Choi Yang-hun. Another adds that once Sergeant Choi returns, they'll need to settle it with a match to see who the true ace is. At that same time, the returning support squad is resting together while talking among themselves. One soldier shares how all the attention feels like a burden. Another agrees while saying they were ignored before, and now it's hard to adjust to being noticed. Someone brings up Park Juno while wondering why he doesn't seem to be affected by all the attention. They glance over and see him happily speaking with a group of girl soldiers while bragging about the raid. He tells them about the moment when Hunwook ran out of mana but still stepped forward to stop the zombies. One girl asks how the rest of the squad got so strong, and Jun Mo proudly says it's thanks to Corporal Hunwook Unk's special training. Elsewhere, Hunwook is alone in a room while eating quietly. Suddenly, someone bursts in. It's Private Lee Wook. He introduces himself and says he has business with the support squad. He quickly falls to his knees and begins crying. He begs Hunwook to forgive him and plead for a second chance. Hunwook doesn't turn to look at him. He wonders why Wanuk had to come in now of all times, but Wanuk remains on the floor while sobbing. A system notification pops up that Hunwook is now digesting the crown of light and darkness which he had consumed earlier. Eventually, Hunwook stands and looks at Wanuk. Though he doesn't like him, he realizes the soul wave is coming. Most squads won't survive it. Even one more fighter could make a difference. After thinking it over, he tells Wanuk he'll accept him. Wanuk stares in disbelief, overwhelmed with happiness, but Hunwook's expression turns serious. He grabs Wanuk by the collar and warns him to prepare to die. Wanuk looks lost. He doesn't understand what's happening. He stammers and tries to confirm what he just heard, but Hunwook shoves him down and growls that it doesn't matter whether he heard it right or not. Ansu keeps begging while calling Hunwook's name because he wants to survive. Meanwhile, in a dark place, the vampire stands silently. Someone storms in, furious while yelling about all the items lost because of his failure. The man accuses him of not completing a simple gate test. The vampire hangs his head and apologizes. A strange girl appears beside him. She speaks in a creepy voice and says that usually someone like him would be left to starve and die, but this time he's lucky. They've been summoned. She licks her lips in a strange, monstrous way and grins with excitement. She whispers that soon blood will cover the entire Soul region. Finally, the Soul Wave is about to begin. Kaibek Jun, the guild master of Great Mountain, is on a call with the guild chairman while reassuring him that his judgment is accurate. He brings up the recent failure of the candidate at Seoul Station and mentions that plans are already in motion. Moreover, he's already gathering forces through contacts in the black market. He is determined to track down the key no matter what it takes. He mentions that the small-time thief seems to use fire in combat, which leads him to believe the person is likely part of AMT. With that in mind, he's planning to trigger 4 gates during the upcoming Soul Wave and then split them up. Afterward, some of his loyal enforcers will be sent to wipe out the first AMT battalion. Trying to ease the chairman's concerns, he reassures him not to worry about the situation in Korea. Once the call ends, he turns to the slaughterers while telling them that they've now got fresh prey. One of the vampires, eager for action, asks for orders. He responds that their task is to raid the 1st Battalion of Namsan AMT as soon as the wave kicks off, and to eliminate everything that breathes. When the vampire checks if there's any specific strategy to follow, he simply mentions they're free to handle it however they like. Their mission is clear to begin with the military unit and erase Seoul from South Korea's map. Over at the 3rd AMT Brigade's 1st Battalion, the battalion commander begins the promotion ceremony with a formal salute to Hanwok and 6 other soldiers who have just received orders for a 1-rank promotion. Following that, every soldier in the unit returns the salute in unison while standing tall with pride. The commander then praises them all for their outstanding service and offers his congratulations. Hunuk nods while giving a quick word of thanks. Soon after, the commander remarks that he's always held the belief that if every soldier and officer carries out their responsibilities properly, they can build a healthy and unified barracks culture, one that leaves no one behind. Hearing this, Hanwok can't help but think the commander is diving into another one of his trademark long speeches. Still, the commander continues while expressing how their strong military discipline has turned his beliefs into reality and how genuinely proud he feels. But just then, the flow is interrupted. The commander gets a call. His tone sharpens and he brings up someone named Kaido. He mentions that he'll head over immediately and then directs the 2nd platoon leader to take charge and finish the promotion ceremony in his place. The platoon leader steps in without hesitation and keeps the event moving. At that moment, Hanuk starts to wonder that could this Kaido be a Kaido, the Sword Saint assassin who once killed Sword Saint Gyeongyo. Memories from his previous life begin to surface. Back then, after receiving intel about Kaido's illegal entry through Busaosan Port, Commander Kim Kangok had left the battalion to go after him. Sadly, during that absence, 2 vampires wiped out the entire 1st AMT battalion. It's clear now that the past he remembers has begun to repeat itself. As thoughts swirl in his mind, the 2nd platoon leader continues with the ceremony and reads out the results of the rank advancement. And Mai, Cho Minj, Kai, Taeyang Parks, Young, and Kim Jin are all promoted to Dank. He instructs them to inspect their awarded weapons and make sure to register them at the local branch office. Everyone quickly complies while the others celebrate their progress and enjoy the moment. Hanwok quietly wonders whether the future he remembers is about to replay itself, and whether this time he'll be able to survive what's coming. One of the soldiers then mentions it feels like they could achieve even more while wondering how amazing it would be if someone got promoted by 2 ranks at once. Meanwhile, Hanwok notices Corporal Park Junmo and checks if he's all right. Junmo responds that he's fine, though he had expected things to turn out this way. He adds that unlike the others, he isn't able to raise his level easily, even though he also received a reward and a high-grade weapon. Afterward, everyone begins examining their new weapons. When Hanwok opens his own box to check his, the soldiers behind him question whether the items inside are actually pegs instead of a proper weapon. That moment makes Hanwok realize that all his preparations are already complete. Worrying now serves no purpose. He understands that he has no option but to face whatever lies ahead. Whatever the future throws at him, he's ready to crash into it, crush it, and consume it. Still, he feels deeply let down by what he received as a reward. Then his memory drifts a few days later at the Namsan Guard post. While they're on duty at their stations, Park Junmo casually brings up that it seems like they're getting assigned night duty way too often these days, joking that they've become easy targets again. Hyuna quietly thinks to himself that maybe it's a good thing the incident hasn't happened yet. Perhaps the changes he made weren't enough to alter the course of the wave. If that's true, then the screen event, the one that will unleash chaos on Seoul, is set to begin today. As they continue standing watch, Park shares that just thinking about the upcoming reward vacation and seeing his grandmother again is keeping him awake at night. He insists he's being completely honest. In response, Hanwok asks if he trusts him. Without Hesitation, Park answers that he does fully and without doubt. Then Hanwuk tells Park Juno that they're leaving their post from this moment. Park is stunned to hear that. Just then, a woman walks over and asks Anmin and Park Junmo if they're staying awake. They both answer that they're not sleeping. She casually brings up how they've been getting assigned night duty way too often lately and checks if they're doing all right. Park responds that he's fine. After that, he adds that Hanuk mentioned this is also part of their training, so they didn't really have a choice. The woman responds with a light comment, saying that Hanwuk clearly believes in their abilities, which is why he gives them such tasks. She encourages them to stay strong. Park thanks her for her words and says he'll do his best. She jokes with a smile that they better stay positive or she'll kill them herself. They laugh it off and nod along. But suddenly, something unusual catches their eyes. Strange creatures start approaching from a distance. Right away, Hanwuk raises his voice while warning it to halt and raise his hand and adding that he'll fire if he get any closer. He also shouts that if he is a civilian, he must not take another step. However, as he looks more closely, he realizes these are not people, they're monsters. Without delay, he pulls the trigger and drops the creature, which collapses to the ground. The other soldiers freeze in shock, unable to believe what just happened. Hanwuk, though still standing, is also shaken by the sight. But before they can recover, they spot a whole group of monsters charging toward them. Without wasting a moment, Hunuk orders everyone to open fire. Then he calls Park Juno to move to the doorway quickly. As soon as Park gets into position, Hunuk casts a magic shield and the wave of monsters is blasted away in all directions. At that moment, it hits him that this is it. The terrifying soul wave has begun. Ko Yunha is seated in the executive's official residence lounge while focusing on her laptop and tracking patterns in military figures under regulation and particular oversight. As she is analyzing the data, an odd sensation washes over her. Prompted by instinct, she steps out of her room, activates her skill, Holy Night, and then carefully pushes the door open. At that moment, a chilling scene unfolds before her eyes that numerous snakes slither through the space while grabbing the military executives. The sight leaves her startled. As she tries to grasp the situation, a vampire suddenly appears in front of her. Caught off guard, she's struck by his sudden blow and collapses onto the ground, injured. With a cold tone, he remarks that he has finally located her. The third daughter of the Holy Knight orders Captain. He keeps attacking her without pause, but she gathers her strength and lands a solid kick on his face while sending him staggering back. Without hesitation, she follows up with a series of fierce hits while forcing him to retreat even further. Though wounded, she questions his identity while wondering if he might be a player. While observing him, she realizes that the parts of his body touched by her holy energy were scorched, and yet his recovery speed is impressive. This makes her wonder who he truly might be. He, however, responds with indifference while claiming there's no purpose in learning his name since her fate is sealed. Despite the threat, a smirk lingers on his face. He remarks almost playfully that it's unfortunate to end the life of someone so beautiful. Before she can react further, her eyes widen in disbelief. Just behind her, a gate has appeared, and with it, a wave begins. The vampire then questions if she's truly lost in thought while he's standing right in front of her. Without giving her time to respond, he strikes her with a heavy ropal-like weapon and then seizes her by the neck. He remarks that he's well aware of her pride, but warns that she should be more aware of her surroundings before showing such confidence. Now pinned to the ground, her neck still trapped in his grasp, she starts to think that without any weapons on her, she has no way to fight back. At that moment, he mentions that although he would enjoy dragging the fight out longer, he's pressed for time and intends to end it quickly. Even as her vision begins to blur, she realizes she cannot afford to pass out here. She must resist no matter what. But her strength is slipping fast and consciousness begins to fade. Just then, as the vampire moves in for the final blow, Hanuk suddenly appears. His unexpected arrival makes the vampire pause, clearly irritated by the interruption. With his grip broken, Yuna falls from his hold and starts coughing while struggling to catch her breath. Between gasps, she asks Hanwuk why he's here. Calmly, he explains that he came to save her. His words leave her briefly stunned. Meanwhile, the vampire watches their exchange with growing fury. He snarls in frustration while accusing them of acting as if he isn't even there. He compares them to someone from a past encounter who showed similar disrespect, an insult he hasn't forgotten. His hatred for military officers becomes clear as he expresses his disgust while calling them rats. However, Hanwuk stays composed and firm. He declares that this time the vampire won't be getting away. That only fuels the vampire's rage further. The monsters keep forcing their way through the gate, their numbers growing steadily. Inside, the soldiers start exchanging thoughts while mentioning that the rapid response unit should arrive shortly. At the same time, those stationed near the entrance begin to worry while fearing the door might collapse any moment under the pressure. Just then, a lady steps forward while offering support. She calmly assures them that she'll handle the mana flow and encourages them to grit their teeth and endure just a bit longer. Her presence brings a brief moment of hope. Soon after, the rapid response unit finally arrives, moving swiftly into their assigned A2 formation. As they take position, the goblins appear, stunned by the unit's sudden arrival and precision. Meanwhile, a lady vampire suddenly shows up, her tone casual yet chilling. She wonders aloud why the zombies are still lingering. As she steps into view, all the soldiers freeze in shock while recognizing her terrifying presence. Amid the tension, some soldiers whisper to each other in panic while realizing that even the rapid response unit didn't manage to scream before being taken down. Fear starts to spread among them as they begin to think they won't survive this. With a cold smile, the lady vampire mocks their reaction. She notes their silence and calls them dull while claiming that if they're that boring, then they don't deserve to live. Her words send another wave of dread through the troops. But then, unexpectedly, she notices Cho Yang-jun approaching calmly, making his way through the swarm of monsters, casually sipping rum. She feels genuinely surprised when she sees Cho Yang-jun. But just as he lifts his rum to take a sip, one of the monsters suddenly smashes the bottle from his hand while shattering it into pieces. At that moment, his irritation clearly shows as his drink is completely gone. Annoyed, he turns to the monster while questioning if it's truly responsible for ruining his drink. Without waiting for an answer, he bursts forward with explosive speed while cutting down every monster that stands in his path. The sheer intensity of his movement leaves the vampire stunned, caught off guard by his overwhelming strength. Once the area clears, Cho Young-jun faces her and casually asks if she's the leader, then demands to know how she plans to make up for his lost rum. She watches him with interest while finding his attitude entertaining. With a slight grin, she remarks that he must be very confident in his speed. Then she adds that with someone like him, maybe she can finally enjoy herself after a long time while suggesting they should have some real fun. However, before she finishes, he suddenly appears right behind her and calmly tells her to simply pay for the rum. Startled, she reacts with a powerful strike, but Young Jun meets it with a sharp defensive move while blocking her attack. Witnessing the clash, the surrounding soldiers begin to cheer quietly, their spirits lifting now that he's finally on the scene. Finally, Cho Yang-jun looks at the vampire with a firm expression and remarks that if she doesn't bring back his rum, he'll be cutting off something else and that will be how he settles the debt. The vampire becomes startled after recognizing him. She nervously asks if he is truly Cho Yang-jun since she had heard he had been deployed elsewhere. In response, Kai Yang-jun explains that he was ordered to do something. He completed it and now he is back. Then, without any concern, he repeats his question about the rum. This casual attitude frustrates the vampire girl, and in anger she calls him insane. Immediately after she attacks Choi and shatters the weapon in his hand. Then, she turns her rage on the other soldiers and strikes them too. As a result, several of them fall to the ground and even Choi loses balance for a moment. Nevertheless, he quickly regains his strength. As she dashes toward him again, she wonders when he had moved into that position. At that moment, Kai Yang-jun grumbles about losing his buzz because of her. He blows on his knife to power it up and requests a bayonet. Just then, a soldier warns that a normal bayonet may not be effective against her. Another soldier adds that she appears to be a vampire. Choi becomes confused and points out that zombies don't talk, so she can't be one of them. While they are talking, the vampire girl sneaks behind them silently while gripping her sword tightly. She looks furious and thinks to herself that Cho Yang-jun's strength proves why people call him a strong candidate for the next sword saint. Therefore, she decides to fight him using her top speed. She challenges him to try stopping her if he can even see her movement. Suddenly, girl soldier notices the vampire and shouts a warning. Choi immediately turns around and realizes that the vampire is right behind him. Luckily, he blocks her attack just in time and counterattacks. At the same time, the soldiers begin to panic while thinking they might be the next target. However, Choi protects them all and slams the vampire against a wall. He then explains that he was trying to control his body's pace to stay drunk longer, but now the buzz is completely gone. While looking at her, he questions how she plans to take responsibility for ruining it. On the ground, the vampire grows nervous. She realizes that Choi is much stronger than she expected. Eventually, she admits to herself that she can't take him alone and needs to flee, so she turns to run. Meanwhile, Choi begins to speak while saying he has a question now that he's sober. Before he can finish, she runs off while thinking she must meet the other slaughterers and find a way to defeat him. Unexpectedly, Cho Yang-jun appears behind her and questions what she's doing. While she keeps running, he quickly strikes again. Their battle restarts and he attacks with full force while causing her to crash hard onto the ground. As she lies there in pain, Choi wonders aloud how someone who isn't a zombie could be controlling them. Then, while watching her struggle, he observes that she probably won't answer him. He questions whether she's even a human. Soon after, when he sees she has lost consciousness, he tells her to take a nap and promises to ask his questions once he finishes cleaning up. After that, he stands and orders the soldiers to tie her up. He informs the vice platoon leader that he will report back after he is done clearing the area. She agrees while telling him to eliminate the enemies first and report later. At that point, one soldier runs forward and offers Choi a holy power weapon while explaining that it will be more effective. However, Choi refuses the offer. The soldier insists, while warning that enemies like her won't die from ordinary weapons. Even so, Choi smirks and explains that it's not fun if the enemies die too easily. He tells them to aim lightly and make the fight more challenging. Then he walks off to face the remaining monsters. Meanwhile, the soldiers quietly watch him leave. One of them comments that Sergeant Hae In-wook's personality seems a lot like Cho Young-jun's. The other one replies that it's terrifying every time either of them smiles that way. Soon, Choi arrives at another battlefield where a vampire is waiting and greets him in a mocking tone. He claims that this time the vampire won't be able to escape. The vampire becomes furious upon hearing Choi's voice and starts cursing him. Without delay, they begin to fight, both using weapons with great power. During the battle, Choi destroys the ropes formed by the vampire's powers. Hyunuk warns the platoon leader that monsters are coming out of the gate and heading for the barracks. He urges them to secure weapons and protect the soldiers. The platoon leader responds by identifying the enemy as a vampire and wonders aloud how to fight back without holy power. Hunwook explains that trying to fight and protect someone at the same time would only put them at a disadvantage. They definitely need a holy weapon. After thinking it through, the platoon leader recalls how well Hyunuk has performed up to now. Then she firmly orders her troops not to die while giving a strict command. Back on the battlefield, the vampire shouts at Hyunuk while saying they should have fought together instead of sending someone else. Hunwook, however, keeps smiling without a trace of fear. He joyfully says it's great that the vampire is still alive. This confuses the vampire, so he explains that if he's still breathing, then it means his boss doesn't know about him. He guesses that the vampire must have survived by reporting his failure as just a small mistake. These words infuriate the vampire even more. Hyunuk then adds that he has been annoyed for a long time about letting the vampire escape and promises to finally end it properly this time. Upon seeing his calm confidence, the vampire warns him not to take him lightly. Right after, he transforms into a monstrous figure and declares that with his new equipment, he is on a completely different level than before. He mocks the holy power beads while calling them useless. He proudly shouts about his expensive mana tanks and swears that Hyunuk won't even be able to touch him now. He threatens to tear him apart all by himself. In response, Hunwook activates his special item, the Crown of Light and Darkness, and releases his Aura Saint. His weapon instantly transforms into a giant holy power weapon. Watching this, the vampire becomes shocked and starts thinking that Hyunuk just turned a useless item into a divine weapon out of nowhere. Finally, Hywook looks straight at the vampire and declares that today he will tear him apart with holy power. With a smile on his face, he prepares to end the fight. As he listens to the vampire talk so much, he guesses that the enemy must be scared. Because of that remark, the vampire becomes furious and threatens to rip apart Hyunuk's mouth. Right after that, their battle begins again. They both pull out their weapons and start attacking each other with full force. Then, the vampire swings his long rope while aiming it at Hunwook. At that moment, Hyunuk realizes that if the attack hits him directly, he will probably die. Now, he finally understands why the vampire looked so confident earlier. However, in close range, Hunwook figures out that the whip's advantage turns into a weakness. Even though the vampire stands there with a confident grin, Hyunuk doesn't back down. Instead, he uses his weapon to slice through all the ropes flying at him. While doing so, he thinks about the skill called Indomitable Steel Body and tries to land an attack. Unfortunately, he still gets hit and falls to the ground. However, he refuses to stay down. So he used skill combo and pushes himself back onto his feet. After that, he starts running. When the vampire sees him retreating, he mocks him with confidence while saying that after all the bragging, now he is running away. He dares him to open his mouth again. At the same time, Hyunuk keeps thinking seriously. He realizes those armored tentacles weren't expected. They blocked his close-range attack by sneaking through the whip's weakness. Because of this, Hyunuk starts thinking fast. If things continue like this, his final long-range move, Fail Not, may be stopped. So, even though it will use a huge amount of mana and leave him exhausted, he decides that he must switch to the Achilles spear. While he's preparing, the vampire rushes at him and yells that he should keep running until he is dead. Meanwhile, Hyunuk keeps dodging for his life. Then the vampire throws his rope again and shouts to unlock while trying to trap him. Although Hyunuk is doing everything he can to survive, it becomes clear that he might not be able to escape this time. Now he starts realizing the vampire is using a powerful mana tank built into his armor. It seems this enemy came completely prepared and already figured out his weak points. Also, with other vampires nearby, Hyunuk knows he cannot waste all his mana fighting just one of them. At that moment, the vampire notices Hunwook's hesitation, so he grins and taunts him again. He asks if Hyunuk now realizes how helpless he is. He dares him to open his mouth like before. Still, Hyunuk keeps thinking calmly. If that's the case, then he knows he needs help. So he quickly calls into his microphone and shouts for Cho Taeyang. The vampire looks confused, not understanding what's going on. Suddenly, a bullet hits him from behind. The impact is strong and he falls to the ground, completely shocked. It turns out Chinch has fired the shot. He shouts that Private Cho Taeyang attack has landed. Then he warns that because of the gunfire, their location may now be exposed, so they must move to another spot quickly. Now the vampire is badly injured and bleeding. Still, he screams in anger while swearing he'll kill them. All when Hunuk sees this, he doesn't hesitate. He runs toward him while shouting that he should just die already. Then, while using all his strength and skills, he drives his weapon straight into the vampire's body. While the vampire lies dying, he starts thinking in disbelief. He wonders how this could be happening since he believed he was the chosen one. He tries to guess who Hunuk really is. He even questions if he's a rancor. Then Hunwook walks up and replies calmly. He says that for someone like him who always acts superior, he'll tell the truth that he's just an F-ranker. Hearing that, the vampire can't believe it. While blood pours out of him, he shouts over and over that it's impossible to lose to a lowly franker. Eventually, he repeats it one last time before his body disappears, completely defeated. Afterward, Hunwook watches everything in silence. Then he picks up what's left of the vampire. Considering how long absorption takes, he decides to eat only half now and save the other half for later. Right then, another soldier runs in and alerts Sergeant Hunuk that a skeleton army is now attacking barracks. No two. Hunuk asks about the plan. Taeyong quickly explains that they can't count the number of skeletons, and at this rate he doubts anyone will survive. As things get worse, Hunwook rushes off. Just then, a giant skeleton shows up and even more skeletons arrive alongside him. He screams that he will wipe out all the low-rank skeletons. All of a sudden, waves of skeletons appear and head straight toward the soldiers. One of the soldiers sees them and starts shouting as they are attacked. Blood splashes everywhere and they even tear the soldier's head from his body. Meanwhile, Kim Se watches the horror and realizes that the platoon leader has also been killed. The girl quickly turns to Sergeant Kim Sihai and cries out that, without the noble phantasm, they don't have enough mana. She warns that the monsters are forcing their way inside, even though the situation is critical. Kim Sehei stays focused. She tells the others to stay calm and not panic. She reminds them not to fire wildly but instead to concentrate their firepower on one target and blast through. Then someone brings up the armory. They explain that it's still locked because the platoon leader had the keys. Kimmy doesn't hesitate. She replies that they must destroy it or melt it if needed. Whatever it takes, they must open it. She insists they can survive and encourages everyone not to give up. At that moment, someone spots more skeletons climbing the walls. A girl warns Kimse that they are getting inside. So Sihai yells for everyone to get away from the windows immediately because it's dangerous. Right then, Hunuk finally reaches the scene. When he sees the huge crowd of skeletons, he curses under his breath. He realizes there is someone inside barracks. No two they can't afford to lose. Deep in his heart, he hopes that Kim Sihai is still alive. Inside the barracks, Sihai stands